Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. So tonight I'm going to walk you through the workflow I use in Lightroom to edit a kind of very underexposed image, and I'm going to use Lightroom Luminosity Masks to do that. So I'll walk you through the full process, how I take that completely underexposed image, what I do with the circular filters within Lightroom, how I select luminosity masks, and then show you how you can actually transform an image using that. Then I'll import it into Photoshop and I'll make some adjustments using the content aware brush by removing objects that I don't really want. So what we'll do is we'll move into the tutorial and hopefully you enjoy it. Okay, now let me walk you through the workflow that I follow. This is quite an extreme image, so this raw file is a photograph I took the other night, last night actually, and this is an underexposed version so that I could get the detail in the sky. But what I wanted to do was just walk you through how you can recover such an underexposed looking image like this using luminosity masks within Lightroom. So first of all, what you can do is you could always press auto and see how auto handles it, and you go, actually auto does a pretty good job. That's not what you wanted, because when you looked at the image the foreground was all bright. So what I can do is, if you select the circular tool and if you then go for an area like here and then rotate it, bring the circular tool down, and then if you select range mask and select luminance, then what you can do is you can select show luminance mask, and it highlights in red all the areas that it's going to adjust for you as you go through this process. So again, you can affect the smoothness, you get the hard edge or a soft edge depending on where you want. I'll just leave the smoothness just under halfway. I can adjust the range. How much do I want to include within my adjustments? So I want to get that whole area there. I can then turn off the mask, and now when I apply the changes, if I just increase the exposure and then if I increase the shadows just slightly, now you can start to see how easy it is to recover the kind of shadows in the image. So if I just increase the dehaze just to give it a wee bit more contrast, and I might want to warm it up because it was a nice warmish sunset, and there we go, we're getting a bit warmth in the image at the beginning and the water. So if I select done, if I now select another circular tool, and what I want to do is a similar edit on the right hand side of the image. So again, I might reduce the size of that circle and make a similar type edit. So again, select luminance, and that opens up my luminance mask. Check where I'm going, so if I select range, bring back the smoothness, turn the mask off, and then what I want to do is increase the exposure just slightly, not too much. Increase the shadows, it's now starting to get a wee bit too bright, and then up the dehaze, and then increase the warmth of the image. And I might just up the texture a slight bit. So what you can see is we've now got in the middle, from the clouds coming down, we've got a kind of sunspot hitting the field. Now this section of the bottom section of the image is still too dark, so if I take the slider and the graduating tool and I just make that edit, again select luminance mask, and here, rather than, I'll try and put the exposure, I don't want it to be too bright, but just enough so that we can see it. Increase the shadows, and then what I'll do is I'll slide that up. I don't want too much detail in the foreground because my focus point was in the centre of the image down at the water. So now what I can do is I can add an adjustment, because what I want to do is kind of change the colour, and I want to warm this up quite a bit. So all I need to do here is increase the temperature slider so it looks pretty warm. Now what I might do is just tweak that round, and while I'm there I might just lift the shadows a bit so we can see a wee bit more lightness. And there we have the basis of a nice image. So there's a wee bit haloing occurred here, and that was because of the circular tool that I used. So what I could try and do, it's not going to be a huge difference, but if I bring the guide down, increase, actually if I go back and if I set the luminance filter, and then what I'll do is if I drop the highlights just a bit, and I'll increase the brightness of the sky, increase the shadows just a bit, increase the texture. I don't want to add in too much detail. If I just reduce the dehaze, it lets you see how it changes the colour in the sky. So if I go far right it goes blue, if I go far left then we start to lose any of the detail. So I just warm it up just a tad, and I think that's where I want to be. Now what I'll do is, in these edges they're still a bit bright, but overall I haven't made any adjustments to the overall image yet. So what I'll do is I'll just increase the texture so we've got a bit of detail in here, just up the clarity just a touch. Now what I want to do here is at the base of these trees I just want to darken them a bit because they're a wee bit too bright. So if I go back and select the pen, the equivalent of the pen tool, and I reduce the size of the cursor, I need to up the size of that cursor just a bit, and then if I just tweak the exposure down a bit, I don't need to worry about texture, I don't need to worry about clarity, I just need to make sure that I'm just darkening the base of that tree line. Now what I can do is just increase the exposure a bit and drop the shadows, and then I'll do a similar thing on this side. I'll just darken underneath that tree line, and then I'll darken this tree line, and in the foreground here it's just a wee bit too bright, so I'll just darken the foreground just a bit, and enough that it gives us some form of border. So what I'll do now is I'll save and transfer this image over into Photoshop. So if I do edit in Photoshop 2021, okay, so now we're in Photoshop. I'm looking at the image and I'm thinking, actually I don't want that tree in the image, so I'm going to use the clone tool and I'll remove the tree. There's also some telephone lines, so if I zoom in you'll see there's some telephone lines going along the tree top. So if I select the clone tool, I'll just reduce the size of the clone tool, and then it does quite a good job. So I can remove that telephone line, and then what I find is if you go in smaller chunks it actually does a really good job of editing them out. So this is the top of one of these grasses, so if I just clone out that grass, because that's just a distraction, there's a grass fuzziness here and the rest's absolutely fine. So if I zoom out, now what I want to do is take out that tree. So if I increase the size of the clone tool brush, and then if I just select the areas that I don't want, now I'm just trying to see how good a job this does by taking everything out all at once. Let's see. It does a pretty good job. It's not fantastic. So what I might do then is use the patch tool and just draw around that area I took out, and either move it down or move it across. Look for something that's going to be pretty similar. me see if I can do that. That's not great either. So I'll tell you what we'll try and do here. If I undo that, if I go back to the clone stamp, the spot healing brush, and I apply small changes, I'm just wondering if we can smoothen out the sky enough so that we can do a blend. That's it's not too bad. So what we'll do is we'll use a clone stamp, set to normal. I'll increase the size of the brush. What I want to do is extend these clouds. So Option, left click, click, and drag that over. And then I'll go at the top of the sky, Option, left click, drag that over, and then I can clone in the tops of the sky, and I'll just go above that cloud. Now what I'll try and do here is, if I do Option, see if I can get some kind of texture at the edge, to see if I'm just moving this around just to get a feel for what looks good, what doesn't. None of it really looks good, so that's fine. What I'll do later on is I'll do a 16:9 crop, and I'll take the top of that sky out. So I'm going to fix this halo edge. We've done this before. So I take the clone stamp tool, I select a darker colour, and then I reduce the size of the brush. And if I zoom in, just reduce the brush further, Option, left click, and now if I drag the clone stamp above the tree line, making sure I don't overlap with any trees, and still keep this the top within the cloud line, and then I zoom out, there we've lost the halo line. So similarly on the right hand side, it's not a huge halo because the sun was actually coming through. I could put try a smaller brush and just do spot. So Option, there we go, and just follow the tree line round, and then that removes the halo from the tree line. And if I just keep going, I'll just try to see if there's anything. There's a bird that is caught in flight, so it's not too bad, but I can see if I can clone the bird out, and I'll do that. I'll come back to that in a sec. Option, just follow the tree line round, and there we go. So if I go back to normal, select normal, Option, left click, I can clone that bird out, and there we have an image. So now to crop out, so if I select the crop tool, select 16:9, and then draw it down so I'm just under. So what I might do is just tighten in so that I'm under that cloud where we did the crop. And there we have a completed image. So from the image at the very beginning that was completely dark, now we've got an image that we've edited, and hopefully that's helped you see how you can recover a completely underexposed image by using Lightroom and Photoshop. Yeah, there's lots more we could do in here with dodging and burning, but for the purposes of showing you how effective luminosity masks are within Lightroom, and then now moving over to Photoshop to remove telephone lines in the tree using the clone stamp and the content aware stamp, it's so easy, and it actually does a pretty good job. It's not an image you would want to put in a competition, but it's definitely a pretty presentable image. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. Hope you got a lot out of it. I mean, the particular image I used might not be competition ready, but it does hopefully give you an idea of what you can do using luminosity masks. And if you like the channel, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because you know it's free. And if you press the bell notification, then that'll update you the next time I publish a video. So thank you, and here's to the next video.